So you damage the relationship and you've taken accountability, but your partner still won't forgive you. Every single time you talk to your partner or your ex-partner, you think showing regret proves how much that you care about your partner, about the relationship. The brutal truth is that it's doing the exact opposite. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the hidden psychological reasons why your guilt and taking this accountability is actually sabotaging your communication. And I want to talk about the exact leadership shift today to regain this connection. So if you've made mistakes in a relationship and you want to take accountability, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to stop using your partner as an emotional sounding board. So oftentimes people can treat their partner or their ex-partner kind of like an emotional dumping ground. When you're entering conversations with them, drowning in remorse, apologizing excessively, or even looking visibly miserable, you're kind of forcing your partner to process both their own feelings and your guilt at the same time. So it kind of covertly asks your partner to kind of comfort you and absolve you of your sins. So it's important to stop using your partner or your ex-partner as an emotional sounding board. Before you send a text message, before you make a call, sit with your discomfort. Process your feelings, process your guilt, process your shame, speak with a friend, coach, whatever it is. And when you speak with your partner, it's important to eliminate any sort of fishing statements. For example, I feel so horrible about what I did, or I can't sleep because of how much I regret hurting you. Keep the focus away from your emotional processing and on either objective matters or your partner's perspective. The reason why this is so important is because of what we call emotional processing. This is essentially just your psychological mechanism to actively handle, understand, and integrate your own emotions. When you manage your own emotional processing away from the relationship, away from conversations, behind closed doors, you don't ask much from the conversation. You're not putting that emotional processing on your partner or your ex-partner. You're taking the responsibility for that yourself. So by processing and removing your guilt, your shame, your worry from the equation, you end up freeing up your partner's emotional, mental bandwidth so that they can connect with you, so that you actually have the ability to help process their feelings, rather than them feeling like they have to be aware and process your emotions for you, trying to make you feel better, etc. That kind of brings me on to what to do next, which is learning how to anchor your own nervous system in order to create a high quality, safe zone for both of you. So when you're actively feeling guilt, feeling shame, even during taking accountability, your guilt is actively signaling emotional danger to your partner's body. Because a rough patch in a relationship or even a breakup kind of rocks stability, your partner's nervous system is already operating in a kind of a hyper-vigilant defensive state. So when you're trying to repair the relationship and you're having these conversations, if you are approaching your partner dripping with anxiety, guilt, your partner may hear remorse, so they logically may understand, but they may feel a kind of an unstable emotional environment. This is what we talk about a lot on this channel. And when I work with clients, is this emotional environment is creating this high standard emotional environment. If the emotional environment is filled with your guilt, then this is going to trigger your partner's defensive walls, and that's going to shut them off. So any chance of relationship repair can kind of be blocked off because of this unsafe emotional environment. So in order to do this, you need to intentionally lower the emotional temperature. So before having any conversation, it's important to practice things like grounding exercises to make sure you're stabilizing your own nervous system. This means that during conversations, you're able to speak in a calm, not wallowing kind of way, communicating in a grounded, neutral tone. So even if your partner does get triggered or gets emotional, because you already practiced how to ground yourself, you don't risk falling into remorse or guilt or shame. It means that you're able to stay level and controlled in a temporarily emotionally shaky environment. Being able to stand firm, stay calm, and remain an unshakable anchor. This is important in rebuilding a relationship, becoming this emotional lighthouse for a partner to feel confident that despite what's happening on the external, you're able to remain calm, and this guilt isn't going to pull down the tone of the conversation. Learning how to ground yourself is all about what you may have heard of, which is co-regulation. This is our neurobiological process where your nervous system is influenced and influences your partner's nervous system. So if you're a chaotic mess of guilt and remorse and shame and wallowing, then your partner's nervous system is also going to trigger. But when you anchor yourself and you take responsibility for your own emotions, you create a safe zone where your partner can let their guard down and be vulnerable because they don't have to protect themselves from your emotional turbulence. This is why having stronger emotional regulation skills is crucial to repairing a relationship. Practicing grounding yourself is going to be absolutely essential to repair this relationship and avoiding this guilt from spilling out into the emotional environment. Practicing this is only sort of in the short term. In the long term, behind closed doors, to stop this from influencing any conversation, it's important to master self-forgiveness, making sure that you're doing this behind closed doors. Your external display of guilt is usually kind of a mask for a lack of self-forgiveness. And it kind of shows a low standard internal process to your partner. If you are stuck in a toxic shame spiral, shame is very powerful. A lot of people get stuck in the spiral that if we beat ourselves up enough, whether it's internally or in front of our partner, then your partner is going to see that you're a good guy or a good girl, good person. Instead, this shame and this guilt that comes out signals to your partner that maybe you don't have a strong enough process to handle your own mistakes and deal with them. So it's important to, behind closed doors, ruthlessly separate your past actions from your current identity. This is about being able to own your mistakes without putting on a public performance of suffering. It's not just about what you say in front of your partner, it's also about how you speak to yourself. Replacing these statements to yourself, I'm such an idiot, I ruin everything, I'm such an asshole, whatever it is, replacing it with a very high standard, accountable language. The way we speak to ourselves has a direct influence to the way we feel about ourselves. Being able to say, I'm able to self-reflect where my behavior fell short, and I'm already taking steps in order to change it. The reason for changing this language, the way that you speak about yourself and see yourself behind closed doors, is because true growth requires self-compassion. This is psychology. Self-compassion is the psychological practice of treating yourself with kindness and understanding, being able to forgive yourself and acknowledge the times when you've been ineffective or you've felt like you haven't shown up in the right way. Without self-compassion, you stay trapped in victimhood. You stay in this victim mindset. Being able to practice self-forgiveness, it changes your inner speech. Being able to forgive yourself in private and talk to yourself compassionately gives you a lot more inner strength during these conversations with your partner. You want to hold yourself accountable. True accountability is silent, it's focused, and it's corrected behavior. It's doing it through actions. This earns respect infinitely faster than publicly groveling. So being able to shift away from self-focused guilt allows you to have the space to lean into clean validation. The hidden trap of guilt and remorse is that it's quite self-centered. It focuses on how bad you feel about what you did. When you drop this guilt, you drop this remorse, you can't replace it with a cold shoulder. If you just act tough, you just act cold, and you stop apologizing, then your partner's going to think that you simply don't care. And that's just going to blow up the conversation just as fast. So it's important to pivot the entire conversation away from your remorse and onto your partner or your ex-partner's reality, onto their feelings. So when your partner expresses anger or hurt, don't explain away your intentions. Don't say, I feel terrible, I feel awful, I'm such an idiot. Instead of that, use clean surgical validation. For example, I can completely understand why you would be angry. I would feel livid right now if I were you, because of the way that I acted in the relationship and the damage that I caused. I think if I were you, I would be feeling really, really upset. In this way, you're able to show that you understand your partner's pain without trying to fix it or apologize it away. In this way, you're developing the psychological skill of perspective taking. This is your cognitive capacity to step outside of your own ego, your own self, and genuinely understand somebody else's emotional state. True validation doesn't require any groveling, any remorse, any guilt. It requires presence. Remove that guilt and that shame. It allows you to develop and build that capacity for validation. When you validate your partner without centering on your own feelings, then they're going to finally feel seen instead of managed. This is going to disarm your partner's defenses, allowing for the relationship to repair because they have the space to feel seen and understood. And then because of this, because removing this guilt and the shame means that you're able to take radical leadership of the conversation. This doesn't mean just one conversation. This means multiple conversations. So your guilt exposes a lack of emotional tools, and this damages your partner's ability to trust you as a leader. So leadership in relationships is not about control. I've spoken about this before on the channel, which I'll link to on the screen. But ultimately, leadership in a relationship is not about control. It's about being able to develop and build tools for both of you to use. So if you can't even handle your own feelings about the past without buckling, then your partner is going to realize that you can't be trusted to handle things in the future because it shows that you haven't developed strong enough tools for you both to be able to use in the relationship. So now is the time to step into a radical leadership mindset. Stop reacting to the past and start executing for the present. And that is going to start to have an impact on the future of the relationship. And this is so important for relationship repair. Being able to be a leader, not through controlling, but through stepping up and building a set of tools for both of you to be able to use, allows you to build the trust for the relationship to move forward in a strong and healthy direction. I'll leave you with that deeper dive video on leadership and relationships, and I'll see you over there.